I would like to acknowledge that this video is being filmed on the traditional lands of the Wurrundjeri people of the Kulin Nation. I pay my respects to their elders past and present, and extend that respect to any Aboriginal, Torres Strait Islander or First Nations people who may be watching this video today. Hi everyone, my name is Steph, this is the Novelty Corner, and welcome back to my channel. Today I have the Books Beside My Bed video for you where I wrap up the last 7 days worth of reading. It was the first full week in June, so I have been going down my queer romance book rabbit hole with all the books that I have saved on my Kindle, as well as a few others that I managed to find since filming my TBR video, because of course I found some more. Before we start, I do want to mention two things. I have a recommend me a book link down below. I actually have had this for a while, but I keep forgetting to talk about it. So if you'd like to recommend me a book, there is a link below. You can fill it in, and I just keep a list of things, and if something takes my fancy, I might pick it up. Also, I do keep forgetting to mention that I do have memberships on my channel, so if you would like to become a channel member, you can find out all of that information on my YouTube homepage. I have one tier of memberships. There are bonus videos just for members. Members get early access to the majority of my videos. There's a couple occasions where life gets in the way, but for the most part, all of the videos you get at least 24 hours, if not more, early access to them, and also members only polls and things like that. So if you're interested, definitely check out those details on my homepage. This is my reading week from the 4th until the 10th of June. I read 9 things this week, a total of 1,788 pages, and my yearly total is 268 books. There are 2 books that I read this week that I will not be talking about in this video because I will have a author-specific vlog coming out 2 days after this video, and that is my Sebastian reading vlog. I've already read A Little Light Mischief, which is a sapphic historical romance novella, and I have read It Takes Two to Tumble, which is a historical romance, which is a Sound of Music retelling-esque type story. So I will talk about more of those in the next video. Jumping into the other books that I read this week, I went down a bit of a Katee Robert backlist rabbit hole because I had quite a few of her older titles sitting on my Kindle that I had not read yet. So I actually managed to finish out 2 series of hers that I had started but never finished. The first series that I finished was the Twisted Heart series, which was a renamed series. It was originally 2 separate series or companion series. There was the Thalanian Dynasty and the Isle of Wise, I think, was the second series, but now it's called the Twisted Heart series, and it combines all of the books, so there's 7 in total. I picked up with book 5, which was Her Rival's Touch. This one is about Liam and Kenzie. Kenzie is one of the 4 horsemen, a group of people who survived a really horrible sex trafficking ring as children, so content warnings for that the whole way through the series. As they grew up, they became really close, and they decided that they were going to find a way to take revenge on the people who took them. And so they basically started this very high-end resort where the rich and powerful pay a lot of money to come and play. So there are casinos and all sorts of pleasure that can be found on this island. The first book deals with another side, which is a hunt, but in Her Rival's Touch, we focus on Liam and Kenzie. Kenzie's moniker is War, and she is very self-sufficient, very determined, very capable of taking care of herself. And she and Liam had a one-night stand many years earlier. After that one-night stand, she robbed him and left him, and he came to the Isle of Wise to find out information on how to find her, only to realize that she was there. And so now he's stuck around and is determined to win her back, and she is very nonplussed by this idea. Meanwhile, in the sort of the overarching series plotline, they begin to find out more information about who was behind the kidnapping of them as children, and there are some very shocking realizations made. I really enjoyed this one. It is a second chance romance. It's enemies to lovers, and I love Kenzie. She's such a fun heroine. She's bisexual and this total ball of energy, and she's still dealing with the fallout of everything that has happened to her, but she has developed her own coping mechanisms, and now it's really about her finding a way to let other people in besides the other 3 people that she considers her only family. I really enjoyed that installment. I read the next book, so book 6, which is His Tormented Heart. This follows Ryu. I think I'm pronouncing that incorrectly, but RYU, and he is sort of the tech genius behind the Horsemen, and he sort of runs all of the infrastructure behind the scenes. And at the start of the book, he has touch aversion, so he doesn't like people he doesn't know touching him, and he's reeling from some of the realizations that the group made at the end of the previous book. And so he's been finding solace in going to one of the strip clubs on the island and watching a particular performer dance, Delilah. And he's just enthralled by her. He knows that he probably shouldn't because he's her employer, but he just can't seem to stay away. What he doesn't realize initially is that Delilah has been blackmailed by someone holding her sister to ransom to find out information on the horseman, and so she's also trying to get closer to him so that she can protect her sister. When this all comes to a head, they begin to form a plan because Ryu and Delilah have begun to form this relationship and attachment to one another. And then book 7, so the final book in the series that concludes all of the stories, is her Vengeful Embrace, and this is Amarante's story. She has the moniker of Death in the group, and she is basically the head, the coordinator, the person, the brains behind the horseman. She takes a lot of responsibility for the people that she considers her siblings, and so she decides to tackle their enemy head on by herself, which leaves them feeling very put out by her. And it also puts her in the path of a former lover that she had feelings for but could never stay with because he betrayed her and ended up working for their enemy. Not that he knew that that was the case, but he finds out in this book, and it's interesting to see his reaction and where his loyalties lie and how he has to reconcile the fact that he is in love with Amarante but working for her enemy. I really enjoyed the series. It was dark and it was steamy, and the characters were interesting and layered, and I mean, it's Katee Robert, so I typically enjoy anything she writes. Then the next book that I read is totally Izzy's fault, just because she mentioned a completely bonkers book that I hadn't read yet, so of course I had to read it, and that is Railed by the Easter Bunny by Dahlia Davies. And it's totally... I don't even have words. So in this world you have Lily, who's trying to get out of the thumb of a fiance, I think from memory, who is trying to rule this part of the world. The world has old gods who hold power and who can hand out power to the people that they want to. Lily wants out from underneath this guy's thumb, so she goes to one of the old gods who is the mother of the Easter Bunny, and she agrees to give Lily power, but in order to gain that power she has to produce an heir with her son, the Easter Bunny. And so she goes down the rabbit hole into Wonderland and, you know, meets the Easter Bunny, and it basically devolves into crazy monster type erotica, which was honestly highly entertaining. And I'm kind of curious I want to know more about the old gods and the world, and you know, I would happily read anything else that the author puts out in this universe. So I mean, I enjoyed it, but it is a little bit out there even for me. I will say, do check the content warnings from the author before reading the book, because there are a whole bunch of things in there. The things I read, honestly. Then I read a totally gorgeous novella that I had not read before, and that was Caroline's Heart by S.A. Chant. So S.A. Chant wrote Peter Darling, and I've had Caroline's Heart sitting on my Kindle for years, and I hadn't picked it up, and I'm kicking myself, like literally kicking myself that I have not picked it up yet. This is a paranormal-ish type novella. It's also got a bit of a historical feel to it because we follow a witch who lost her partner and has been trying to build a spell that will resurrect her. In order to do this, she has constructed sort of this clockwork heart that's wrapped in spell work, and she's still building it and gathering materials to make it stronger so that she can pull her love back from the other side. And then one day a cowboy that she has met previously is gravely injured, and the only way to save his life is to give him the heart. She does it even though she knows that she's pulling apart this spell that she's been working on for years, and it is about how the two of them build a relationship. Both the hero and the heroine are trans characters. Their stories are just very poignant and beautiful, and S.A. Chant just writes such beautiful, beautiful stories. If you haven't read this one, of all the books that I've read this week, this is the one that I would suggest you pick up. I also read the most recent release in the Relic series by Maz Maddox because it was released, and that is Lost in Amber, and this is Yu's story. And Yu is a Yu Tyrannosaurus shifter, and he and the Relic team specialize in fossil recovery. And we start the story about 100 years in the past, where he is shot by someone who is on a fossil dig because Yu is there to try and rescue the fossil from being sold off to people that it doesn't belong to. And he gets shot by Lance, and Lance ends up nursing him back to recovery because he can't believe that he shot someone. Like, he's an academic. Like, it was not in his wheelhouse to shoot someone. And then we flash forward back into the future, and their paths cross again when they are both trying to reclaim a fossilized dinosaur sample in Amber. We find out that Lance is working for another dinosaur shifter organization. Some of their goals align with Relic and some of them don't. And Lance and Yu end up having to work together, and then feelings develop, and the whole thing was relatively funny. There's some really cool chase scenes through China and some really awesome side characters that we meet that were just characters that I loved and would like to read more of. And we are getting the hints in this book towards Montana's relationship, which I'm hoping is book 5. I love this world. I love the characters. I love the concept of dinosaur shifters in the modern world, and we're just going to leave it there because that's totally up my alley. I also read Sips of Her by Carmen Lee. This is a novella in the Coffee Shops of Love series. I think it's book 2. This one is a sapphic romance, which is why I haven't read book 1 yet, although I do have it, so I will probably pick it up this month. It is about Julie, who works in an office and never expected to fall in love with the local barista Cameron. And when Julie's very toxic ex-girlfriend turns back up on the scene, Julie ends up in a fake dating relationship with Cameron. However, Cameron is really interested in something more, and so is Julie, but Julie doesn't really have the words to get to that relationship yet. So this is how they sort that out and how they recover from miscommunication and misconceptions about one another. So it was short, it was very fun to read. I really enjoyed Carmen Lee's writing style, so I will definitely be picking up more books by her. And then I read 2 more Katee Robert books and finished out her Out of Uniform series. So these, I think, were, I can't remember if these were indie published or if they were traditionally published, but they featured heroes who had been in the military, or I think. I read Out of Uniform 3, which was His Lover to Protect. This one was about Alexis, who we had met in the first book in the series, and while I was reading it, I was remembering way back when I first read this series, who all the characters were. And Alexis was the sister of the hero in the first book, and she had been going through treatment for cancer. So content warnings in this book for discussion of cancer. Their mother died of cancer. That's historical off page. But also, in order to get well, Alexis had a full hysterectomy. And so that's weighing very heavily on her mind. And her family is concerned because quite literally at the end of her treatment, she upped and left everything that she knew to go traveling around Europe. And she didn't take her phone with her because she didn't want her family to communicate with her. She just wanted to contact them in her own time while she worked through what she needed to work through. Part of this was brought on by the fact that her sister was pregnant, and of course that had a lot of triggering feelings for Alexis. But her family is concerned about her, so they end up asking a friend and former para-rescuer who was injured by an IED to keep tabs on her as she's traveling around Europe. And that's all well and good until Alexis spots Luke and thinks that he is stalking her, which he is, and ends up confronting him, but they have an attraction and they end up sleeping together on one part of the trip. But then Alexis disappears and Luke has to track her down again. He convinces her to let him travel with her. And he's starting to fall for her, but he doesn't tell her why he's there. And then the complication is that she finds out that her family has sent him and she's pissed, and they have to work through a lot of things. And it really is, there was a lot of emotional depth to this book. But yes, be aware of the content warnings for this book because it will be triggering. I think it will be triggering for some people. And then the last one that I read was His to Take, which was Out of Uniform 3.5. So this was a shorter novella. This one is a second chance romance between teenage sweethearts. So you have Erin, who had dreams of becoming big on Broadway, but when she stood up for another actor against a director, she was basically blacklisted. And so now she's back in her small hometown, and she ends up coming face to face with Warren, who was a boy that she had a very steamy affair with in their teens before they left town. They're kind of like fire and ice, and they bring out the best and the worst in each other. And Warren is back in town and determined to win Erin back. And so he proposes a game of truth or dare one night after Erin has a failed online dating experience. And he knows that it will get a reaction out of her, and he knows that she's not the same as when she left previously and that something is wrong, and he wants to try and bring back the old Erin that he knew. So it's very short. This one was kind of fun as they try and work through their issues, and they have a lot of them, and they have a lot of misconceptions about one another, but it read really quickly. And if you just want a short contemporary romance novella, this is a good one. All right, so those are the books that I read this week. In the comments, I'd love to know if you've read any of these books or if you've been reading something else that you'd like to share. Always feel free to share those down below. Or if you want to let me know that you're here but you don't want to leave a comment, feel free to leave a T-Rex emoji because, I read a dinosaur book, so yay. Dinosaur emojis. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more content, and I hope that wherever you are in the world, you're staying safe and healthy, and I will see you in my next video. Thanks so much for watching. Bye everyone.